here today in the bush with Ernie DeMuth of DeMuth Forestry Services. And Ernie's also the chair of BAFIA, which is the Bancroft Area Forest Industry Association. And Ernie's going to tell us today about tree marking. So Ernie, tell us what goes on in the process of tree marking. Where do you start?
Well, we start off with the prescription written by a registered professional forester. That's basically our guide. We use that and we mark according to that prescription.
What do you need to be qualified to do when you come in to mark this bush? I mean, you got to be able to tell trees apart. Tell us what is required.
Well, typically the best form of education is a forestry technician diploma. You then move on to getting a tree marking course, which is put on by the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources. It's a 1-week course, extremely thorough course on how to mark trees for harvest, taking into account the Silvex forest ecology and wildlife values. From there, you get audited. It takes some time. You need to get some on-the-ground experience on marking trees, and then you get audited by the Ministry of Natural Resources by marking a piece of land, and they assess that, and then from there you become certified to mark on Crown lands.
And there's a number of issues with marking trees. What are the issues that you deal with?
The main issues, the first question you would have to ask yourself when you're looking at a forest is, are you dealing with an even-aged forest or an uneven-aged forest? An even-aged forest would be typically species of trees that are intolerant to shade. These would be the pines, white pine, red pine. Red oak is a mid-tolerant species. Poplar, birch, these types of trees will grow up all together at once. So a marking regime for this would be different than, say, a forest which is uneven aged, and where it's growing up at all different levels. These are species like maple and beech, which are tolerant to shade.
So what kind of forest are we looking at today?
Today is going to be a uneven aged forest, where you're dealing with mainly maple and beech. The trees are typically tolerant to shade, so you will have all different sizes. So you have to balance how this can be cut.
So Ernie, where do you start, and how do you decide what tree is going to come out of this area?
Well, typically when I walk into this uneven aged forest, I know I'm working in a selection tree marking method. With that, we use what's called basal area. And for basal area, we use a prism to assess basal area. Well, first off, what I would do is I would take my prism. I would use this as a tool to tell me how much wood I have in this area. How many stems do I have that I can assess, then try and figure out what trees I can take. I've already done that for this area. I did what's called a prism sweep with my two by prism. We can pretty much bring this down. We can take 2 trees out of our area right here. So at this point, after I've assessed how much can we take, how much will still maintain a good balance of trees in this area, so things can regenerate properly. I now have to assess what trees will I take. And the requirement typically, generally, is you want to take trees that are not going to last over the next 20 years. They're going to decline over the next 20 years or very rapidly, but they still have typically some product in them that we can use. So first off, what I do is I got 2 trees to take here. Okay, first thing that I would notice right away is that we have a beautiful beech here. We'll go and take a look at this. This right here is American beech. It looks very good. I don't notice any diseases on it. I'm going to take a quick look around the other side here. I don't see any diseases on this that are apparent to me. I look up at the top of the tree. The crown looks very full. It looks like a very healthy tree to me. This is a type of tree that is going to last 20 years and well beyond. I can see right away that we have claw marks. They're very old, but this is from a bear, a black bear. And what he's doing is he's going up there to grab beech nuts. On the crown lands, we're required to leave where we can, we're required to leave 8 mast trees. Mast trees are typically nut-producing trees. This can be American beech, which produces the beech nuts. We've got red oak, which produces acorns. We have black cherry, which produces, obviously, cherries. So typically I would just take blue paint, we need a nib here, and identify this tree as being a mast tree. That tree's going to be saved. So right away my eye's drawn to this tree right here, this maple that's right beside it. And then if you see this, you can see sugar maple borer damage right on the side of it. Typically this type of, it's an insect, the sugar maple borer. Damage like this to a tree, the tree can actually overcome that damage. It's actually not a significant amount of damage that this tree may make it for the next 20 years. But if you look up again, you'll see another incidence of sugar maple borer damage. And then as you keep going up, you can see the tree starts curling away, trying to get light and trying to get away from this beech. With snow load, that tree's not going to last. It's either going to break where the damage has been done by the sugar maple borer, or it's going to topple over because the lean is too much. So I would mark this tree to go. That's going to be one of my trees that I'm going to take out of this area. I have another tree that I can take out of this immediate area that I've assessed. My eyes drawn next to this maple here. Obviously, it's been looks like it's either wind damage or a certain type of rot that's affected the upper crown of it. It's broken off a good chunk of the crown. Up there you can see some black bark and just serious internal rot. Below that internal rot, you have a very good saw log in there, so some good wood products. This tree will not last for the next 20 years. So we're going to mark this tree, and we're going to utilize it. Another disease that is very common in the hardwood forests in Ontario is what's called Eudipella canker. It's also called cobra canker because of its distinct similarity to a cobra's head, the back of a cobra's head. Oh, yeah, there it is there. That's actually the spore fungus right in here. And that's what makes it spread from tree to tree. With this one, you can see we've got it here, and it looks like it's spread over to that tree there. And you'll see that both trees are marked. So not only can we utilize this wood product from above here, because this will split, this will crack at where the canker is, but above it you usually have great wood that can be used. So we're not only getting this out of here and utilizing the wood, we're also getting rid of a disease and possibly making the forests healthier for the future. Being a tree marker, you're typically one of the first people on the scene. You're the one who's going to find the wildlife values, and nests are a very important thing. Typically when we're walking through the forest, we are always looking up, we're looking at the crowns, so we notice the nests, and you get an eye for actually picking them out over time. This one here, just marking along, and you stumble into a nest like this. First thing we do is we stop our marking. We don't mark anything near the tree. Anything that we marked on our way there we'll have to blue out. Depending on the species will depend on the protection that the nest is going to need. In the case of this one, it was an unoccupied nest. It hasn't been occupied for a period of time. So what we need to do here is just protect the nest tree. Don't mark any trees that could affect it or fall into the nest and in any way damage it. So pretty much in this area we don't really have anything marked, and we just leave that and we mark it on the map so it's known for the next time we come back in say 20 years or 30 years from now to do another cut. We'll know that the nest is here and check in on it. Another thing is a tree marker, part of our wildlife values that we're keeping our eye open for is cavity nests. We're required to identify 6 cavity nests per hectare with blue paint so that they're not damaged and to put aside that important habitat. The example we have here, as you're marking along, I stumble onto something like this. This is an amazing cavity nest. This is probably the most important cavity nest that we can protect in the forest. This is a pileated woodpecker nest. It's very distinctive because you can tell it's a very large hole where the woodpecker excavated the nest, and then there's also a smaller hole, and this is the exit hole in case that he's predated and he's got an escape route. These are very important cavities because they're very large and they can house a wide variety of wildlife, being raccoons, flying squirrels, owls, and the woodpeckers, and this is a great habitat. So this is our first priority, to protect these types of cavities. So this is an example of a red oak, which is a mid-tolerant tree species. It's also a mass producer. So it needs quite a bit more light than, say, a maple or a beech. And it produces nuts, which is an amazing wildlife value to it. So we really like to try and promote species like red oak. With the lack of fires, red oak is also known as a fire-generated species. So anything that we can do, because we've become very good at preventing forest fires, we need to maintain a balance where we can promote these type of species in another way. And one way to do that is to give more light to oak. In this case, we have a red oak and we have a maple. And if you look up at the tree, you can see the tree is starting to curl away, trying to get light. And this maple is actually inhibiting this red oak from growing properly and for the crown to spread out. So what we would do here is, the tree markers, I would mark this maple to go, to give this red oak more light. And it's also called, we would be releasing the oak. This here is another example of an intolerant species, yellow birch. It's valuable for the veneer in this. In the past, this species was logged heavily. So whenever we run into yellow birch, especially young yellow birch, we try and take as many trees as we can around the top of it to release it, so it can get the light, so it can grow properly. So any opportunities we have to promote this species, we try and do that. This here is the forest operations prescription. This was written by a registered professional forester at the Bancroft-Minden Forest Sustainable Forestry License. You can tell by the stamp on it that this has been approved by a registered professional forester. This is the guide that I go by, using my own experience and my qualifications and education. I then use this as a guide for this specific piece of land on how I'm going to mark it. This here is the map identifying this is identifying the selection area, where we've done most of our examples through the film have been in this area right here. This is the nest that we saw, the stick nest. It's already been identified on the map. So this is all our selection area that's going to be managed. This here's the Ontario Tree Marking Guide. It's typically our most important manual when it comes to tree marking. This is produced by the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources. In it, it talks a lot about the diseases. So this is a very important book for tree markers to be using. It's been stated that tree marking is both an art and a science. It's typically not as measurable as people might think it is. The more knowledge you can acquire about the sylvics of trees, about forest ecology, about wildlife values, you can then take that as a technician and apply that in how you're going to mark a forest.